Hi there, my name is Steve House with Uphill Athlete, and I'm going to just do a quick tour today of the performance management chart and some of the other charts that you can view in TrainingPeaks. Once you're into your TrainingPeaks account, you'll have the ability to select Home Calendar Dashboard, or ATP, which stands for Annual Training Plan. I'm on Dashboard right now. That's what you see. And this is for one of my athletes that I'm coaching. So I'll just use him as an example for how this can work. The first thing I want to look at is the performance management chart. This is showing the last 90 and next 21 days. That's one of the default time views that you can see. It's currently today is 22nd of February 2018. And when you look at this, it looks a little confusing, just a lot of colors. As soon as you mouse over the dates anywhere along here, it will give you some information. So for example, here it shows us the date is 2/22/2018. That's the 22nd of February. It's showing that today there was a workout with a TSS score of 42 with an intensity factor of 0.6. This athlete's fatigue level is scored at 117. Their fitness or chronic training load, CTL, is 106. And their form is -21, which means they're in a depressed form because they're carrying a lot of fatigue. So one of the cool things about this, and one of the most useful things about this that we've talked about in other articles, is the CTL, or the fitness. That's a really great marker. This athlete is going on a pretty strenuous Himalayan expedition. He's going to attempt multiple high peaks this spring. We're just about 8 weeks from his departure. So you can see his chronic training load has been really high for the last 3 months, right around chronic training load of 100, which is in other articles something that we have called out as a good standard kind of guideline for preparedness. So let's just have a look here. Let's one of the things you'll notice. Let's start at the top with the TSS, Training Stress Score. Each of these red dots is a workout, and the higher the red dot, here's another high one back here on January 6th. Each one, that's the higher it is, the harder the workout was. That's a training stress score workout of 332. This one just 2 days ago was 348. The one today, which was the recovery workout, was 42. So those add up, and in TrainingPeaks algorithm helps create what they call these other terms, the acute training load, the ATL, the chronic training load, and the form, or the training stress balance, is what TSB there stands for. So I can also go in and I can click on any one of these workouts. Let's say, for example, I want to go back to January 6th. I'm like, what the heck was that workout that gave him such a high TSS score? I can go and I can click on that workout. It'll give me a little summary right there. I can see it was a 24-mile run. It was a long aerobic, and there's my, how I wrote the workout. It was a long aerobic capacity workout done fasted in the morning at aerobic threshold. And I can click on the workout box. It'll bring up some data. My internet connection is obviously pretty slow today. And I can see some things. I can then go into the data. I can see the map. The map's not coming up too well right now, but I can also see this this stuff here, which is actually what I'm most interested in. One of the things I do first often is I go up to this little graph and I just smooth it out. I don't need to see, especially for a 6 hour, or whatever this was, 4 hour run, I don't need to see every little undulation. I want to just see the trends here. I don't really care about temperatures. I'm going to hide that. Speed, pace is something I care about. Heart rate is something I care about. Elevation is something I care about. And cadence, I generally, for right now, don't really care that much about it. So I might, you can see you can hide these different things. So I like to just simplify it so my brain can kind of understand. The gray here is the elevation. This was done, as you can see, in Singapore, so there's not a ton of elevation gain and loss. The red is his pace, and the green, sorry, is his pace, and the red is heart rate. So you can see, you know, here the pace went up for a ways, varied, let's say, going up through this hilly section. The heart rate stayed pretty even though, and I can come over here then, and I can see that for this run, his average heart rate was 148, his maximum was 169, and then the other thing I can see is that his he slowed down. The pace and the heart rate became decoupled as he went on. So this is showing me the whole workout, all 4 hours, 24-mile run. But I can also, what's interesting is I can look at sections. So I may look at just the last hour, so let's say from 3 to 4, and I can see what was the average heart rate and pace during that time. You see these are all blank right now. It's recalculating. So see, look at that last hour, his average heart rate was 157. So it was working a lot harder towards the end. Now, if I go back here and I look at like the first 3 hours, I don't have to get it exact, but let's say first 3 hours and 1 minute. You can see that average heart rate was 144. So I can really tell, when part of it was these hills, you can see in the elevation there was several hills at the end here. But also, this athlete was probably getting tired and pretty fatigued after running for 3 hours. It got pretty hard to maintain a reasonable pace towards the end of this workout. So when I look at this, I think, well, when I look at this after the fact, I'm thinking, you know, this workout may have been a little bit much today. Maybe a little bit too long. Maybe he was a little tired. Not sure what was going on. That would require some more investigation and communication. But I have an idea that, you know, this workout, maybe if I had been there, I should have, you know, chopped it at, you know, 3 hours and called it. But I wasn't able to do that. So we ended up with probably a last hour, at least the last half an hour of, you know, higher heart rate and higher intensity than I really wanted. The other thing that's going to tell me in terms of my planning is that this athlete's going to need some recovery, because this last, you know, 40 to 60 minutes of this workout, we're done at a higher intensity. It's going to be hard to recover. You know, that's going to take some more time to recover from that. So back to the performance management chart. That is really great tool. So I can look at that and I can see his next day's workout. Oh, look at that. Good. It was a training stress score of oh, that was the day before. Sometimes it's hard to see. Yeah, the next day's workout looks like probably a strength workout. So local muscular endurance workout. You can see I had this was the start of my other notes from that day. This was the start of a consolidation week, which makes sense why we had a big workout towards the end of that previous week. We start with a local muscular endurance workout, which is, you know, local muscular endurance means his legs, essentially. And this was, you know, 3 sets of 6 by 8 seconds of uphill sprints with 60 seconds of rest with a weighted pack or vest. So, you know, this is a workout that should help him actually recover a little bit, get the blood flush through, and it shouldn't be too hard. So you can go back and you can look at these and you can see. Mostly what I'm interested in generally is I'm looking at the last week. I'm not looking back 2 months unless I'm looking for clues as to what went wrong. But what I'm noticing here, if I look particularly at this last, say, 2 weeks, you can see there's a bunch of workouts that were done with training stress scores of around 100. The benchmark that TrainingPeaks uses is a TSS score of 100 represents as hard as you can go for 1 hour. Okay, so this was another one of these local muscular endurance workouts, which is sprints. So it scores pretty high, and there's a bunch of those along long here. That's pretty typical, where most of the workouts are going to be grouped, with training stress scores of 75, 100, 106. And then once a week, those are these big long workouts. This is on the 7th. This is on the 13th, so 6 days later. This is on the 20th, so 7 days later. And it's on the 30th, 7 days prior to that last one. So that's very, very typical. You can see that those are those big once a week long aerobic capacity building workouts. And then you can see these flatliners down here. These are full rest days. So you can see that on 215 he had a full rest day. If I click on it, that nothing shows up because nothing was scheduled for that day. So that's what a good looking distribution of duration and intensity in TSS, training stress scores, looks like. You can see most of the scores are down here, and then about once a week there's a score that's somewhere up, in his case quite high, because he's able to do quite a lot of work and is quite a fit guy. The other thing that's really interesting about this is to see what will happen if you stop working out. That's what these dashed lines are. His yellow line, or the form, will sort of skyrocket and probably peak out here, in about roughly 2 weeks. And then he'll be able to hold this high level of fitness for, somewhere between, that says the 6th to the 15th. That's just a model. So, but it shows that he's got a good 10-day period here where he's could be really fit if he really starts to taper aggressively right now. That's also really interesting to do. But more than anything, it's interesting I wanted to point out and walk through these TSS scores, how they look in graph form, and how that can help you look at your overall training and think about what the workload you're doing. The other thing that I want to look at on this page is this chart right here. This is a very typical. Most of his time, so 40% of his time in zone 1, 48% of his time in zone 2. So zone 2 is his aerobic capacity, zone 1 is his recovery workouts. He's getting his training is pretty polarized right now, which means that he's doing a lot of he's doing a lot of really easy workouts and a lot of really hard workouts. These are those real long runs, and then these zone 3s and zone 4s and zone 5s as well are his sprints, the high intensity work that he's been doing. And some of this zone 3 stuff, a lot of this is actually, I know from looking at these before, we call this the no man's land of training, but a lot of this is from strength training, because this athlete is wearing his heart rate monitor during strength training. I don't necessarily wear my heart rate monitor personally during strength training because I don't like to see all this zone 3 heart rate in here, but that's what's showing up. The other thing that I like to see is this chart right here. This is training stress score by week, and the blue line is intensity factor. The red line is the thing I want to talk about, the training stress score. But what you can see here is this week it builds for 3 weeks, it drops down for a couple weeks, it builds up, it drops way down, it builds up, it drops down. But you can see these easy weeks are harder than these easy weeks, and harder than these easy weeks, and a lot harder than this early week back in November. So that's a really good looking modulation. We talk a lot about modulation. You can see that the current week, which is not quite done yet, is down here, but by the time he's done with this week, he hasn't done his long workout. That is going to be somewhere up in here, the top of that bar. So that's another thing I look at. You can kind of at a glance see if you've been modulating your training well. So that's it. I'm going to stop right there for today, but I thought that would be a nice little insight into using the performance management chart to review your training. And it's a really powerful tool within TrainingPeaks that we really recommend using as coaches. My view may look slightly different than an athlete's view, as I am using a coach account, but it is a really powerful tool and let you go back and look at various workouts, and is an excellent way to stay on top of your training. Thanks for watching. This is Steve House from Uphill Athlete signing off.